As I foreshadowed last night, Anthony Albanese's Attorney General, Mark Dreyfus, his top lawman, has jetted off to Israel, went today, to show we're really friends, even though the Albanese government treats Israel like an enemy. And I suspect Dreyfus is in for a bit of a shock. Self-awareness is not this guy's strong suit. Dreyfus, who is Jewish, I guess that's why the government sent him, said he's going to Israel and the Palestinian territories to demonstrate Australia's long-standing friendship with the Israeli people, plus our commitment to peace in the Middle East. Now, this happens to be a bit of a joke, since one of the things that Dreyfus says he'll stress on his visit is that international law must be upheld, which, for this government, is code for supporting the outrageous arrest warrant for Israel's Prime Minister for supposed war crimes. And I think Dreyfus is going to be told that the fact that he's Jewish isn't fooling anyone in the Israeli government. Suddenly say, oh, this man must be on our side after all. Joining me is David Adler, head of the Australian Jewish Association. David, great to see you again. You have actually been talking to members of the Israeli government ahead of Dreyfus's trip. What are they telling you?
Well, firstly, Andrew, the Israeli government is very capable and very well informed. And you're right, the fact that Mark Dreyfus is Jewish does not necessarily bring him any credit. In fact, some people call him a Jano, which is Jewish in name only. And he seems to have made his leftism override his Judaism in his positioning in the government. It really should have been the Prime Minister. He's one of the few international leaders who has not visited Israel since October 7, 2023. And of course, when Penny Wong, the Foreign Minister, went, she didn't even go to the southern areas where the terrorism occurred. It was seen as a dreadful insult. And we already note, and the members of the Knesset are aware, that the statement, a little bit of which you quoted, has him visiting something called occupied Palestinian territories, which is the Labor pejorative term. And there is nothing in his statement that indicates that he would be prepared to go to where the terrorism happened on October 7. So he will be treated with a great deal of caution. He will be challenged in some of the policy issues and positions that he's taken. He, for example, opposed the proposal for a judicial inquiry into anti-Semitism on the university campuses, which even the Labor-appointed anti-Semitism envoy wanted to see happen. So, yeah, he's going to hit some potholes, so to speak, in his diplomatic journey in Israel.
Now, we'll probably get a meeting with the Israeli president. I got one last year. What does that mean? But the MPs actually in government that you've been talking to, communicating with, that have asked you for information, what is the attitude they have, do you think, to his visit? I mean, I don't want you to, reveal private conversations, but the impression you get overall.
Well, they're fully aware that this has become a significant political issue in Australia, and that we have a federal election within a matter of a few months at maximum. So it's seen as a bit of a political stunt. So they pick the Jewish guy out of the government and they send him for a trip to Israel with no capacity or no announcement to make meaningful policy changes. They have trashed what was the bipartisanship. His statement refers back to Doc Everett from the 1940s, who was a Labor man who played a role in the United Nations in supporting Israel. But this is not the government of Doc Everett. It's not the government of Bob Hawke. It's not even the government of Julia Gillard or, others. This is the most extreme left-wing, anti-Israel government that this country has ever had, and it has fuelled an anti-Semitism crisis right across the country that we see now almost every day. So they're fully aware of that.
Yeah, well,
it'll be a political stunt. I mean, that's how it's seen.
I think that's correct from sources I've got too. Meanwhile, while it's there, maybe even while it's there, the Hamas group will probably, there's tipped. I mean, this has been talked about for ages, so let's not get our hopes up too high. But there may be a release of hostages, about 34 of them, by the Hamas terrorist group, hostages, Jewish ones that still been holding in Gaza, in exchange for Israel pulling out some of its troops in stages. And this, of course, follows the threat by Donald Trump to raise all kinds of hell if Hamas does not free those hostages by Monday, when Trump is sworn in as president. Here he is.
If those hostages aren't back, I don't want to hurt your negotiation. If they're not back by the time I get into office, all hell will break out in the Middle East. Can you elaborate? And it will not be good for Hamas, and it will not be good, frankly, for anyone. All hell.
Now, the Israeli foreign minister today was suggesting a note of cautious optimism. But what are you expecting?
Well, I want you to understand, and your listeners to understand, the massive and painful price that's being asked for these few dozen hostages. And Israel values life extremely highly. But the trade-off is that there is a demand on Israel to release up to 3,000 terrorists. And this is causing a great deal of tension in Israel, a great deal of controversy. The proposal does not have universal support and is getting a lot of criticism. The first tranche would be about 1,000 terrorists to be released. And I guess the counter argument is, while we might save 33, 34 hostages that we hope are alive, we release people that may bring far more death and destruction, and in fact encourage future hostage taking if such a great ransom is delivered. So
that is a very good point, David, because let us not forget that in one such hostage deal, Israel released Sinwar, who became the head of Hamas, who organised, ordered this attack on Israel on October 7. So really, that is the trade-off indeed. David Adler, thank you very much for your insights.